With great power comes great responsibility. And look at your power, brothers and sisters of light. 3 glorious specializations, wrapped in the most spectacular armor sets in all of gaming. But beware, for there are poser paladins, and their numbers are legion. They run around in their Ret Spec and their T2 anniversary set, but they do not have the heart of the faithful. For the true power of the light comes from service. By shield, we learn to look out for and protect our allies. The Librum teaches us blessing, healing, and that most ancient and powerful ability that 90% of retail paladins apparently aren't aware of: cleanse. And of course, there are seasons of retribution. Remember the holy words from the Librum of Oklahoma. All these paladin posers can blow me. You who seek true paladins, you will know them by their Q. The paladin community loves to fantasize about class halls and class quests. Well, here's a class quest for you. Learn the class. This is why the light sent Brother Oklahoma to the faithful, to call you to become the paladin you were meant to be. Enough with the alts. Put your faith in the light. You're a paladin main now. You will know them by their Q. But probably be in tank spec because you get that one a lot. So make sure you're hitting that all rolls Q because it spices things up and it makes you a real paladin, not a little fake Pinocchio paladin. This freaking specialization, dude, with these shields flying out and you're glowing. It's classic dungeon week. This is like the best of both worlds, right? You get to play some classic dungeons, but you don't have to play the awful classic specs. Remember, when you come into these time walking, whatever role, like if you see this healer in here, this is a holy paladin. And we don't want them being bad, right? We want to work them out real good. So you get these big pools like that, it's going to be good for them. And they're doing such a good job. Warsong here, going to cheer them on. Little salute. And also remember, we're throwing out that freedom. And we always have respect for those who are playing that blessed holy paladin, the greatest spec in the game. It needs some love in the class talents, though. Paladin class talents just suck. Their specialization talents are pretty good. We got a leveling buff and catch-up gears going out like candy at a parade. No time like the present to level that paladin. Something to think about. One of the things you've got to give Blizzard massive credit for is that here we are in the year 2025, and Blizzard's genre-defining in-game still cannot be touched. There's not even a competitor on the horizon. Go ahead, link an MMO in the comments that you think is going to compete with World of Warcraft. Gives me a lot of pride in World of Warcraft, but brings me a lot of sadness about the gaming market in general. And what's crazy is these other games that came after Warcraft had the World of Warcraft as a blueprint, and they couldn't replicate it for their own MMO. So you got to give Blizzard props on their in-game. I'm not saying things are perfect, but there's nothing even close to Blizzard when it comes to raiding, dungeons. I would argue, I think they went a horrible direction, and I think they pretty much abandoned PvP, but I would still argue that even PvP is uniquely awesome in World of Warcraft. And if they hadn't turned it into cooldown trading mode, it could have been incredible. And the thing about retail is, it's all about in-game. One of the great experiences in Classic WoW was going back into an MMO where leveling was important. And there is truly nothing like leveling up in the world of Classic. Like, the leveling in Classic is incredible. All the complaints these Classic players made about leaving retail, and look what in-game in Classic has turned to. LOL. Retail's too complicated. I think I'll go spend 45 hours in AV. Make sure you flag everyone grabbing their DoorDash as AFK. Right, you got to snitch on all your friends. Make sure that they're active for that 45-hour-a-week grind that's already stupid. Never change, Classic community. Never change. There's so much you could improve in Classic. I mean, it is really an awkward game. To me, Classic Plus is the wrong idea. You need more like Classic Squared, because there's a ton of ways to improve Classic. The truth is, if the Classic community players put all the time that they put into AV, into learning retail, it wouldn't be too complicated. Right? If you can put 40 hours a week into AV, you could learn a retail rotation. I promise you. Classic in-game is a disaster, but the leveling in Classic is fantastic. It's uniquely fun. Then you come over to retail, and retail hates leveling. The whole point of retail is to get you to max level as quickly as possible and get you on one of the geared treadmills. And when you talk about the oldest in-game in World of Warcraft, we're talking about raiding. What do I always tell you about World of Warcraft raiding? What is it? Well, it's synchronized swimming for dudes. We all buff up, get in position, then we dive into the boss pool together, and we learn the boss dance. We all hit our buttons, and we start this giant laser light show. At some point, we're going to split into groups or split into opposite charges. Evens left, odds right. And then eventually we're going to move in a circle together as we dodge the frontal, and then don't look out for stuff on the floor. Doesn't matter what the routine is. It's just some dance you got to learn, and you do it over and over and over until the boss goes down. And a lot of people love artistic raiding. It just gets them going crazy, and that's what they do. And they do it better than anybody, and they sound like they're having a pretty good time, honestly. And anytime you talk about artistic raiding, people in the comments come in and start blasting you with, Liquid Maximus clips. Look at all the eyeballs it draws to World of Warcraft, but you can pull up any participation chart and you can see Mythic raiding is not popular, and it never has been. Now, it's had seasons where it's been easier than others, and that helps a lot. And you can clearly see the easier the content gets, the more players participate in it and knock it down. And yet this takes up, some amount of development time. I always wonder, is it worth it? And of course, the people that love that community come in and say, well, it's not just about participation, it's the eyeballs it draws. Because if you look at things like Race to World First, not only does the race itself draw a ton of attention to World of Warcraft, but also the nuclear bomb of React content that goes off during it is good for the game. And that justifies all of this development time being spent for 5% of the community. And I think that might be a pretty good argument. Plus, you got to think they are going to build a raid, because that's just always been a part of WoW's in-game. There's always a raid. So you're already going to have the heroic. How much more development time is it to make it mythic? I don't know. Maybe it's substantial. Maybe I'm grossly underestimating it. But if you're going to have a raid anyway, I don't really see the big deal. But when you look at the participation numbers, I think it's a completely fair question to ask, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I think there's good arguments both ways. But then we had our first evolution of in-game come in Legion with the addition of Mythic Plus. Every season with Mythic Plus, I get started and then all of a sudden the wind's out of my sails and I just stop. And I don't know what that is. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. If I kept really working at it, I could probably get all the 10s done or 12s. I just don't want to. And I don't know what that is about me. And I always used to feel bad about that. But then when you look at the Mythic Plus participation, I actually think I'm pretty normal. You can just see there's a very consistent flow of participation, and it's always downwards. Now, you might get a bump up here and there, depending on if they implemented some 0.5, 0.7 seasonal retention package with a new ring, a new head enchant, more numbers on your gear. But just overall, the trend is always there's a peak start, and then it drops down. Difficult season, less difficult season, bad tuning, better tuning, they both go down. And this is just the nature of it. I mean, you see these stats and you're like, 2 million runs week 1, that's incredible. But when you start throwing some division at this number, I really would be interested in what the actual number of individuals doing Mythic Plus is. Because at the highest level, the guys playing 40 plus hours a week, and let's be honest, 40 is low for some of them. These guys are crushing keys nonstop all day, every day across their army of ults. One guy can account for 50 to, I don't know, what's the high end, 70, 100 runs. I mean, at some point there's a time cap. So I haven't done the math, but you guys tell me, what are the highest level players knocking out in a week? I don't know. Between their ults and everything, the first week too, because, you know, they're at least vault capping all their characters. So that's 8 per alt. What's interesting about this participation to me is it actually doesn't make a lot of sense. What you should really do, if you're wanting to be super efficient, is do the minimal amount on the first few weeks, wait till you get your tier set, and then maybe do a little extra from there. And then as all the 0.5 and 0.7 buffs and gear and all that stuff come in, and the consistent nerfs happen throughout the season, this is when you're really it's gonna be way easier than it would here. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to push it hard here, unless, again, you're like some competitive player and you just like the grind. And let's remember, these numbers don't include China, because if you included China here, this number is probably 16 million. You can go over to the Raider.io website and you'll see the top players. A lot of them are Chinese and they don't play. They put these kids we got to shame. That's the problem I have with all of our high-level competitive players. The only ones we get to hear from are the Americans. And what do we know about American video game players? They suck on the national stage. It's like all the men in the world formed a giant union to reject the get a job, have a family, and, you know, fall into my dad's life. And they watch their dad do it. And they're like, you know what? I'm good. Think I'll just play video games and watch streamers. Fine. I respect the hustle. But here's the thing. You guys suck compared to all the other degenerates in the world. I mean, these Asian kids blow the doors off of our group. We got to put Europeans on our team just to keep it competitive. From Warcraft to League of Legends, first-person shooters, you name it, American gamers are getting their ass kicked by the entire world. And it's so embarrassing, it's hard to watch. What do we have to do for these kids? Huh? Half of them are living at home. You got plenty of food. Like, what do we have to do to get some winners on the American team? Because our kids suck. People telling me about Biden's embarrassing, Trump's embarrassing. No one could be more embarrassing than the 20 to 35-year-old American video gamers. They're a fucking disgrace. You know, Asian dads get a lot of shit for being too hard on their kids, but I got to tell you, something's working, because they are kicking ass and taking names. I mean, that's why I can't watch like any more arena tournaments, just because watching what those European kids were doing to our boys is like they were hitting the beach of Normandy again. I mean, so what do we got to do? Huh? You tell us. What do we got to do to make you guys better at video games? Because you guys suck compared to everyone else. This is why you got to respect the Ellesmere as a holy paladin up here competing with the rest of them. Now, people are going to say this team of his is pretty squared away, and I imagine that's pretty true. But at some point, you got to press the buttons and the healing has to take place, and he's got it covered on that holy paladin. And respect to my boy. Keep shining, King. You're our only hope. My God. The brilliance of Mythic Plus, though, is that it's scaling content. You could push as hard as you want, and then you stop. And that's kind of the beauty of it. I just never understand all the front-loaded participation when it gets way easier as the game goes on. But obviously, the pain is the pleasure for some of these dedicators out here, because they're hitting it as hard as they can when it's as difficult as it could possibly be. But the in-game evolution didn't stop at Mythic Plus. It has now continued into the War Within, with one of the most exciting features coming into this expansion, which was Delves. And that's why I'm so interested in the in-game participation of the other activities, because I'd love to see how it stacks up to Delves. The problem with raiding and Mythic Plus is the time investment, and not just how much time it takes to get all the add-ons and learn the class and get good enough to do the content, but also you're locked into that content. I mean, a raid takes hours, and a Mythic Plus dungeon takes 20 to 30 minutes sometimes, depending on the group and the dungeon. The World of Warcraft community is getting older, and more people have jobs at home, and they have kids at home. And so for the average WoW player today, I think the combination of being able to progress through the content at your own pace, on your own time, and the miracle of the pause button. Even if you're halfway through it, you can let out the dog, get the DoorDash, help the kids, go take care of whatever the wife's been nagging you to do all day, and then come back and you're still in it. I mean, that is a miracle power for someone at my age. And it reduces the stress dramatically. I still think we should rename these things, because Delves just drives me crazy, but I think it's fantastic content. The only concern with this stuff is just the repetitiveness, right? But I will say, I don't think delves are any more repetitive than doing the same raid every week or the same dungeons over and over. Repetitiveness is a problem for all of the content. I don't think that's unique to delves. Plus, they did try to change up the scenarios, which is nice. You can change different specs to try it in. There's ways to switch it up. And remember, this is just the first implementation of delves. This is going to be improved upon. And that was part of the Mythic Plus decline for me, is that honestly, delves were enough. And I got to tell you, I am not some person that is just all on board with everything WoW was doing. Because I'll be honest with y'all, I'm already done with this whole War Within World Soul saga. I wish they would take all of the great things about retail and put it back into the World of Warcraft. Because this shit is feeling less and less like World of Warcraft to me every patch. Feels like we're in just like this big get-along game world. And I miss the old World of Warcraft so bad. So bad. And every time I see an orc in a bikini running past me, I'm just like, what are we doing here? It's just awful. And this story writing has just been horrendous. The Horde burned down a tree, and then they help us get a new one. And what they've done to all the Horde leaders. And honestly, Anduin's a little leaky for me. I gotta tell you something else that's an ever-increasing disappointment is this goddamn trading post. I don't know what it was about Ardenweald, but it changed the retail community. It was like Pandora's boxes opened, and ever since then, it's just been a barrage of butterfly wings and furry shit everywhere. I mean, it really unleashed some forces on our community. And I get it, and I'm happy for all of you that love that kind of shit. It completely ruins my immersion, but can we add a men's department to the trading post at some point? Because there was like a few good pieces here and there. And, every once in a while I find something, that might be nice. But overall, very disappointing and increasingly so. I mean, just look at this little nightmare. If you looked out your window right now and saw that in your backyard, you're telling me the first thing you're not grabbing is a shotgun? That is horrifying. Plus, I had a buddy back in grade school that had hamsters as pets, and let me tell you something. They are not cute and sweet. He had this real big hamster and then this little tiny one, and big guy would get on top of little one and go to town. And I'm talking about popping wings, trinket macros, just going hot on that poor little hamster. And the whole time he's squeaking like, and I'm just sitting on his bed trying to play Nintendo, and I can't even think, dude, because it's just terrifying what's going on. I tell myself to this day that they were sounds of pleasure, because that's the only way I can handle that whole event psychologically. It was horrifying. I looked over at my buddy. I was like, man, you sure you don't want to sprinkle some water on him or something? Help my man out? And he was like, no, they just do that a couple times a day for like 10 minutes. Yeah, that's why all these people are like, don't worry about death. You get reincarnated. You better hope that's not true, because you always think you're going to come back as like a lion or a butterfly. But what if you come back as the little hamster? And twice a day for 10 minutes for the rest of your miserable life while you sit in a cage where you all shit on yourselves. Sounds like a horror movie. So be careful what you wish for. I don't give a damn what you put on this thing. Cute little leaves, fruit, cash, gold, T-Mog. I don't give a damn. You can miss me with the hamster mounts. The brilliance of the Blizzard team to add delves wasn't just about the evolution of in-game and adding another, single player, more relaxed type of in-game, but this is the first in-game system that really appeals to casuals and is very accessible and very enjoyable. I mean, there's a ton of you guys that watch my content that love this stuff, and I do too. I think it's just, like I said, the power of the pause button alone is just a breath of fresh air. And that's exactly what World of Warcraft needed, right? You had your sweaty modes. Now you have your relaxed one. And soon you're going to bring in your one-button rotation, which will be plenty good enough to do delves. This is going to be fantastic, and it's shaping up to look wonderful on console. And now, on top of this casual-friendly delve content, they're bringing in player housing. I'm going to tell you right now, when this housing drops, me and my Moonguard family are going to melt the servers. All you technical support employees better listen up. We are coming for you. If you want to get excited about player housing, all you got to do is go run around in the World of Warcraft right now. Just go run around the villages on the Isle of Dorne or Hallowfall any of these places and you'll see that player housing is going to be sensational. Obviously, it will be a work in progress. It won't be flawless. There'll be things the community likes and dislikes, but it's coming to the game, and we all know that this will be the most popular in-game ever introduced in World of Warcraft. So like most of you, I am just floored with this edition. And just personally for me, I mean, if you guys even knew the amount of time I spent making my house in Skyrim, and the possibilities are exciting. I mean, they already are implementing this with the idea of neighborhoods in mind, but think about the future. I mean, you could redo the whole garrison idea with it being a guild garrison, right? And now the guild has to go out and get supplies and build up a whole garrison that's very personalized for that guild. It could be an incredible new future for the World of Warcraft. And let's be honest, there's not a competitor on the horizon. Maybe World of Warcraft just beats the shit out of everybody else for another 20 years. Like I said, WoW's in-game evolution has been genre defining, and you gotta give them props for the way that they have done in-game content. But it's very nice to see them bringing in more and more casual friendly in-game content for the rest of us who just really enjoy being in the art, being in the experience of a fantasy world. These additions have been fantastic, and housing coming in is, I think, a very exciting future for World of Warcraft. So, like all of you, I'm very excited, and stay tuned because you know no one's going to bring you that housing guide like Brother Oklahoma. Who's looking out for you? Just me, handsome. Oklahoma out.